Francisco. It's the Good Time Show. And now your hosts, Artie and Sriram.
Welcome to the Good Time Show.
Welcome at a slightly earlier time today for a very special episode.
Yes, we have guests on the East Coast, and so we wanted to make sure that this was a time which could accommodate the most number of people. So welcome and thanks for being flexible today.
And if this is your first time joining us in the Good Time Show, first of all, welcome and thank you. Arti and I have been doing the show for a little bit of time now, and the core essence of the show is we just believe that technology is just fundamentally a good thing for all of us, for humanity. And we believe that the stories of the people building things need to be told. And they could be building anything. They could be building technology. They could be building community. They could be creating content. They could be entertaining people in the sports field. It doesn't matter. If you're building and if you're creating, we think it is worth understanding what motivates them, who they are, and how it is that they do whatever it is they do. We do the show about twice a week here on YouTube. Yep. So if you're watching this, please hit like, subscribe, smash. I'm just going to point down and just figure out the right button. It's not hard. It's figure out the right button, subscribe, and I promise you won't be disappointed. And you definitely won't be disappointed what you're watching now, because we have a very special crew of people that we wanted to get on the show for a long time joining us today.
Yeah, I mean, for today, we have a packed episode for you. We are going to cover a lot of things about NFTs. So we are going to cover what it takes to go build an NFT project end to end. We are going to cover what it takes to build an authentic community. And, speaking of community, there's just so many people who've joined us from the Rebels Discord, Rebels Twitter. So welcome, folks. It's just been so great to see all the retweets and comments and posts coming in all day. That's just been amazing. And we want to also talk about the new creator economy that crypto has been able to enable. So lots of things to go cover here. And we have some special guests today. For today, first off, we have Justin Blau, or somebody who said on Twitter, 3 Blau. He's the founder and CEO of Royal. It's a popular music NFT startup that's just disrupting the music industry as such. Justin's been on our show before, only on voice. It's the first time we're seeing him on video, so more pixels. Welcome, Justin. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
I have to say, when Justin used to come on our audio-only version of the show, I was always just jealous of Justin's smooth radio voice. And to be honest, I had no idea how he looked like. But as the evidence shows, ladies and gentlemen, he is as good looking as his voice is just sexy and seductive.
Oh,
so
you're too kind. You're too kind.
And then we have Nass and Stefan, or Nass and Sass, co-founders of the Rebels NFT project. And Nass unfortunately works with Sriram at A16Z. I'm really sorry you have to put up with this guy, but is focused on crypto security, and just is kicking out this whole Rebels project. So we want to talk a lot more about that. And then Stefan, your day job is building high performance trading systems at Hudson River Trading. They've both been working on the Rebels project for many months now. And that's kind of how I got to know both of them. So we're going to talk all about it. Welcome, Nass and Stefan. So happy to have you on the show tonight.
Likewise.
By the way,
super stoked.
But just before we went live, Nass, who is amazing and one of my favorite people, they told me, hey, this setup, all this lighting looks so good. And at work, you usually kind of slouch in the corner. And I was like, yeah, thank you for the feedback. It kind of hurts me. Thank you. So, yeah, we're going to get some real truth here, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get some real truth here. No,
it's going to be fun.
But Nass is one of my favorite people, and what they're building is amazing. But I want to start with Justin. And so for those of you who are not familiar with Justin, Justin's a world-famous musician, DJ. And if you go check out his Instagram, it's basically him in front of packed crowds of people cheering.
I feel like it's photoshopped. It has to be. How are there so many people? I don't get it.
A lot of people.
It's the fisheye. The fisheye makes it a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
and so Justin, you talked about this before, but I think it's such a good place to start, right? So you've done music for a long time. You built an amazing career over there. And I'm kind of curious. You kind of lead this cool existence and playing pack shows and all that. What brought you into the world of crypto and NFTs in the first place?
That's an awesome question that I don't get to answer too often, but I never as a musician was the biggest, nor did I ever have the biggest hit songs, but I always had a very loyal audience of people that did come to those shows and packed out those venues and had a really strong emotional connection with my music. And so I always wondered, with third-party platforms, whether it be Facebook and SoundCloud, which is kind of where I started my career, to now Spotify, Instagram, TikTok, as a musician or as a creator, you never have much insight into anyone who's actually consuming your creativity. You don't really get data or emails from anyone who's listening or even coming to a show and paying for a ticket. So it always fascinated me about distributed ledger technology. And I kind of got involved in 2014 and then more aggressively involved in 2017. What fascinated me was the idea of transparent data for any type of, not even just the creator economy, but for, financial applications and banking the unbanked in the third world, frictionless value transfer, all these amazing principles that distributed ledger tech could theoretically change and improve. And for creators, my biggest qualm with Web 2 was not having access to the people that really connected the most. And that was the reason why I got involved in the first place.
Oh, that's awesome. And there's just so much to get into over there. And by the way, Justin, I just love your focus on community. We're going to talk a lot more about community when we get to talk to Nass and about Rebels. But I'm curious. So over the last couple of years, you were ahead of the curve when it comes to all things NFTs and crypto. But over the last couple of years, we have seen celebrities from the world of sports, from the world of entertainment. We work with several of them enter NFTs. So when and I know that you get hit up, right? You get hit up by famous musicians, famous people from all the sports. We've talked about it. And what have those conversations been like when everyone's calling you and they say, "Hey, I've been hearing a lot about NFTs. I want to know what should I do with this thing." What are those conversations like? What do you tell them?
It's funny because I will say 5-6 years ago, there were really only two. I had one friend in music that really particularly took an interest in this stuff, and his name is Andre. His artist name is RAC, and I'm sure some of you have heard of his music. And we were really the only two people that cared, and everyone else kind of thought we were a little bit nuts, as naturally we would expect for new technology that is a little bit early for the applications. And in 2017, Ethereum was early for a lot of the applications that we see today, where you have NFTs and DeFi that have just kind of exploded and proven the use cases. But I will say, it's kind of fun to have friends that I've made as a DJ, because of course when you're playing clubs and festivals all over the world, you do get to meet lots of fun people, and that's such a spectacular aspect of the last decade of my life. In doing so, I've really been able to hopefully help other types of creators, not even just musicians, get involved in the Web3 space. And a highlight was FaceTiming Matthew McConaughey, who was trying to do it was right after my auction in 2021, about a year ago. And I had FaceTimed him with Guy Osiri, who now at the time wasn't with Yuga Labs, but now is. Mm-hmm. And of course, he's a prolific investor. And I was on a FaceTime with Guy Osiri and Matthew McConaughey talking about how we could apply NFTs to this charity event in Texas that Matthew McConaughey was throwing. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, I was kind of like, what is going on with my life here? What other circumstance would I be FaceTiming Matthew like that? And it's been really fun. And I feel truly honored that people do reach out to ask for advice, because realistically the technology is early and there's a lot more to be built. And I think, what's really interesting is that a lot of the promises that Web3 makes about the future of the creator economy has yet to be fulfilled, because engineers still have to build it, but the concepts are raw and there. And so that's, it's an honor to be able to talk to those people.
But it is definitely an all right joke in there with the Matthew McConaughey anecdote. But I was going to say I'm not going to go there, but it's too late. No, and so I want to talk about Royal, right? But I think one of the patterns that you talk about, and I think we care a lot about, and I care a lot about, has how Web3 has kind of really shifted the power dynamics for creators and letting them take control of their own destiny, letting them maybe have a fairer share of the of the value they wind up creating. So I would kind of curious to get your take on that, and also just talk to us about Royal and what it is that you folks do and the story so far.
Yeah, I think definitely a large topic, but what's always been interesting is that you look at Web2 platforms and they've basically monetized themselves and via advertising through the creations that exist on the platforms, right? So you've got creators that make funny videos for TikTok or musicians that make music for Spotify. And the reason why users are on these platforms is not for the platforms themselves and certainly not for the ads. It's to consume content. But none of those creators have ever really gotten paid directly by the platform. Maybe they can leverage their audience to get brand deals, or in the case of a musician, it's to play shows and sell tickets. But the platform itself never really compensated creators. And what Web3 has done is it's woken creators up to the fact that they actually provide enormous value to all of these platforms. And that's part one. Part two is the consumers of the content aren't necessarily, the money that flows to the creator doesn't capture the emotional value that people experience in consuming that content. So it's kind of two sides of that coin. What we do at Royal is a little bit different in that we believe that ownership of music should be a publicly accessible asset. And today there are only three parties that can theoretically, quote unquote, invest in music. There are record labels, private equity, and hedge funds. And of course, the artists themselves who create the rights behind music. And if you look historically, music rights weren't as meaningful in the kind of early internet because people would mostly pirate the music they wanted to listen to. But streaming services made it way cheaper and easier to access this giant library of music. Basically, you can listen to whatever you want. Everyone has the same collection of music on their phone. And it actually did something really powerful for rights holders. It got them paid. The issue is there's a little bit of a false narrative in the media where most artists claim that they don't get paid by the streaming services. It's not really the case. What's the case is there are lots of people in between that are taking many cuts. So the artist only ends up with 5%. And I was talking with Russ yesterday, who's probably one of the most prolific independent artists in the world. And one of the things he said is, if people just own their music, they'd understand there's actually quite a bit of money there. And so the principle behind Royal is really simple. It's leveraging Web3 and crypto technology to give the public access to investing in music as an asset class, something that has never happened before. So imagine you own 1% of your favorite song. That's such an incredible situation where your incentives are now aligned with your favorite artists. You're probably more likely to share that song with your friends. You're more likely to play it on repeat and get people excited about that musician that's emotionally impacted you. But that hasn't really been possible in the past. And that's kind of our key focus at Royal.
I think it's very powerful. When you're a kid and, I'm kind of dating myself here, let's say you're a band and there are only so many ways you could find a way to support them. You ordered a CD and there's kind of like, the paper inside, or you could wear a t-shirt. But I think the idea that you're now a stakeholder and, and if that artist and if that song are doing well, that you are somehow participating in the economics, it just adds something to how you feel, and it just kind of makes you, have skin in the game, makes you feel like a participant. It's just a powerful new feeling.
I mean, music royalties as an asset class is just something that's just so interesting, right? Because it's not just about monetization and creators making income, or consumers or users trying to figure out how to take a stake in this, but it's also about what it means for me to own this music or be a part of this community. And I think that's really rich and powerful.
We like to use the words participation in the economics and proximity to your favorite artist, right? So if I'm a musician and I know that one of my fans owns a piece of my song, they're my partner. And how does that change the way I treat those people that have invested in me, right? And it changes the entire relationship. And just as you said, Saram, the unit economics of music have been purely single directional and consumption oriented, where you can either pay for a subscription, buy a license, pay for a ticket to see a show, or buy a piece of merchandise. None of those activities create mutually aligned incentives between an artist and their listener. And so all of a sudden, when both the artist and multiple listeners own something together, it completely generates a new flywheel for positive feedback of an artist's popularity. And of course, the fan who might have listened to Halsey early on in the beginning who might have only paid $5 a ticket to see
Yep.
Halsey play.
Mhm.
Now, you know, when Halsey goes and plays a show at an arena and it costs $200, that fan doesn't feel as left out for supporting
Yep.
Halsey early on in
Yep.
her career.
Yep. That,
Right?
that makes total sense.
It makes
Yeah.
sense, right? It makes sense. It's hard to execute, which is
Yeah.
why it hasn't been done before. But
Yeah. Now, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's super powerful there. Nas, I wanted to get to you. You know, speaking of music, you have a really interesting background in music. I mean, I want to lean into like your backstory here,
I love this.
and also, you know, I wanted to also ask you about Rebels as a project. You know, we're going to talk about what it is, timelines, all of that stuff. There's a lot coming there, but how did it all start?
Yeah.
Like, you know, especially given both of your backgrounds, you have these day jobs, and it's kind of relevant but adjacent. You know, I wouldn't think launching an NFT project would be the thing that you would like focus on. So how did the
Yeah.
whole thing start?
Yeah.
And when did it start?
Yeah.
Like
Who
how
are you? Tell us your backstory.
Yeah,
Tell us your
tell-
superhero origin story, Nass.
Okay, is it reveal time? I have to say my actual name, and that
it's
like it was
your
not
reveal
Nass all along.
time. Yeah.
Well, so first and foremost, I'm the chief security officer at A16Z Crypto. I work with Seram, kind of like helping make sure that like, you know, the entire portfolio of companies is secure. And like, this is actually how I got to meet the amazing Blau here, because Royal is part of the portfolio, and I've been working with Royal and Blau on kind of like making things secure on, you know, at the protocol layer, etc. So that's kind of like how I spend most of my time. Prior to that, I was at Facebook blockchain, working on building a lot of the security features within the blockchain wallet at
Yeah.
Facebook, which actually a lot of these things that ended up being reused for the Instagram NFT stuff that is being built right now. So super excited
That's
about
awesome.
that. Yeah, and so co-founder at Rebel with Stefan. How
Yeah.
it started is crazy. So obviously, like I've been in the crypto space for close to 6 years now, actually. Like as a software engineer, as a security engineer, as a technical leader. And so I've been, you know, I'm a product builder, Stefan as well, and like, you know, Stefan, you can kind of like cover your background, but very similar, and was also like one of the first engineers on the Libra project, and actually has his name on the white paper. And so, you know, we are product builders, you know, and we want to find a true problem that people have and leverage technology to solve this problem, right?
Mhm.
Just like Blau was explaining, leveraging a technology to address a problem that is critical for a wide range of people. And
Mhm.
so for us, the way we were kind of like this kind of like research process was first like, okay, let's identify actual problems in the space. We were thinking about various things ranging from like DeFi to
Yep.
NFTs and DAOs and so on. And, you know, kind of like randomly browsing on Twitter, actually, you know, I was going on kind of like the influencer pages, you know, and started seeing a lot of people changing their profile pictures very often. I was starting to see people kind of like accumulating NFTs into their banners, and having a conversation with the team, we realized like, okay, like the profile picture format is fundamentally broken because
Yep.
it doesn't really evolve with you. It doesn't really follow, you know, the evolution of your identity, the set of, you know, communities that you are joining, and the roles that you are starting to take in these communities, the achievements, the events that you attend, and everything that comes with that, right?
Mhm.
And so we really realized that it was like the thing that we wanted to fix. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, let's build a canvas, a digital front end for digital identities. Basically, like let's build a layer that will allow people to express who they are
Yeah.
in a very dynamic way, in a very in a way that is true to themselves, that is very authentic. And so this is kind of like how Rebels came. And so, you know, yeah, go ahead.
By the way, I love that you mentioned this before. You used to listen to this show and about NFTs too, which I love too.
Yeah, it's so finally for everyone watching, this is a very emotional moment for me because I actually got to learn about NFTs on this very show. and it was
Okay.
including
Mhm.
there were Blau was in one of the rooms, but it was
Was
like
it-
the good.
Was it the Dylan Field room? With Dylan
So
Field?
there was like the Dylan Field one, and there was the Good Time Show, and I was just and I would like my mind was blown. It was around the time of like the Beeple auction.
Oh
And,
yeah,
like, you guys managed to bring the somehow
Yes.
managed to bring like the anonymous
Metacoven
yeah.
and
flyer.
Troubadour.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, yeah, that was a
That was an insane
that was an
episode.
insane episode.
Yeah.
But crazy, just 30 seconds, right? Like, a crazy story there is, so the auction happens. This is Beeple's Everyday's auction. I think this was January last year.
Yeah.
And that night, I get a DM, a cold DM from somebody I don't know, saying, hey, the winner of the auction has listened to your show and would like to come on before they do New York Times or all the mainstream press. And I'm going, okay, random person on the internet, like, I'm sorry if I don't believe you. But then they were like, well, and they got somebody very legitimate in the crypto world to be like, actually, this person's legit.
This person is legit.
And
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
I
And then
think
I was
you might have
sorry,
DM'd me. I think you might have DM'd me about it to
Yeah,
Yeah,
ask.
I think so. Yeah. We
But I
were
was
trying
like,
to
oh,
reach
yeah,
out to
legit.
anybody we knew, being like, who is this
Yeah.
person? Are we getting scammed? Like, what's
Yeah.
going on?
And so I was like, look, this is great, but I can't just have a person that I've never heard of or know for the first time on the show. I need to talk to them at
Yeah.
least by phone.
Yep.
And I don't want them to be doxxed. I respect that. But have them call me or something. And they were like, okay, fine. So I get a call, and this was, Metacoven and Troubadour, who I think are now doxxed.
I think
and
Troubadour gets on
calls
call.
me. And, in the first minute, 30 seconds, I'm like, wait, I was like, wait, not only, this is amazing, but I was like, you're actually from India, from Chennai, and you speak Tamil, because I could tell, right? And I could tell, like, the temple bells ringing in the background. And I switched to Tamil, and I was like, Tamil, like, are you Tamil too? And he was like, I was like, this is just the most surreal thing. And that episode that night, Nass, thank you so much. And Blah was there. It was mind blowing, right? Because they had never done any press before. They had never, talked about it. And you had Dylan show up. I think
we scrambled to put that show together in like 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dylan had just, I think, did this Dylan Field of Figma, who had sold his punk.
Yeah.
And he has this amazing speech, which
Yep.
I think is still online, where he talked about what is art, which is just amazing and epic. And then we had Metacoven, who bought with his fund, and who won the auction, show up and talk about what the meaning of art and what it means. And
Yeah.
honestly, just one of the top 5-10 experience of my life to just kind of bring through it. And so thank you. I mean, that was just an amazing.
Yeah, that was really special for us too.
Yeah. And by the way, Nass, and Saj, just so I'm sure there's somebody who's watching this right now who is going, this NFT thing sounds cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and create one.
I mean, you will not believe the number of people who've DM'd us being like, we started looking into NFTs after listening to this show or this episode or something of that sort, which for us, it's like, it's kind of daunting. It's like, we've set this like kind of high bar for ourselves
Mhm.
where people are able to come in and like listen to it and then figure out like, I need to dig into this. It sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, we didn't mean to cut him off. We totally digressed.
Okay, so I want to
Talk about Rebels.
When I first met Nass, I pulled him over, made him sit down next to me, and I said, we went to this hotel, and I said, hey, I want you to tell me the story of Rebels. How you built it? How did the art come about? How did the design and the music influences, the art influences, all of it come about? So Nass, could you just maybe and tell us that story? I mean, here you folks are technologists working in crypto. How do you go from this idea of helping people represent themselves to what we have today?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, it was like a process that we did that was like we tried to be very rigorous about it, kind of like the technology piece, the community piece, and the art piece that are kind of like the three verticals that we've identified for a collectible project. And so on the art side, as we kind of like discussed what problem we wanted to solve, we needed to really identify an artistic concept that visually represents, obviously upper body of an individual, but also is like really puts the emphasis on the message above everything else, because this is kind of like the idea, right? The idea is like to really express your message, who you are, right? And it's not so much about like what you look like, right? In the digital world, it doesn't matter as much. What really matters is the kind of communities that we're part of and so on. And so we and it was really crazy because I think that like this one was like so random. I was actually watching a music video from one of my favorite rappers in France called Kalash Criminel. For all the French people, they will know him. Always wears the balaclava, and so he started with the blank balaclava. It was like blank black, always, very kind of like more, kind of like gangster rap side. And then as he started adding conscious messages within his text and lyrics, he was basically making evolve the content of his music, and just, but for example, like a protest against a war in Africa and like various, injustice. He started including visual elements to his balaclava, and this kind of like made it. It was kind of like the switch that was tilted. It was like, there is nothing that is actually as strong as someone who leverages a mask or a balaclava to put the message onto it, because then it's a lot less about themselves physically and a lot more about what they are trying to, to communicate out there. And then we kind of like started into checking like, okay, across the entire range of, culture, what are all the various ways that this is being used, and there is the music, very strong. UK drill, for example, they're very, very big on masks. We also see kind of like high-end fashion with Maison Margiela, which is doing an amazing job on creating, wonderful masks and really pushing the full mask culture. Kanye West is also very good in it. But also, things like animes, are very much about masks, right? Like if you look at Naruto, if you look at, One Piece, you can really, like you will remember forever the moment where you see like this person with this unique mask, coming, and kind of like it will dictate their identity. You don't even need to see the rest of the body, see their face, anything. It's all about the mask. And so this is really how we kind of like approached it. So kind of like high-end fashion, gaming, protest as well, like and rebellion also comes also from the fact, that like we were also inspired by protest and fashion that derives from protest, actually. Because a lot of protest leverage fashion to go viral, and basically a lot of people don't want to be recognized physically. Mask,
they wear a mask.
And then you end up with like, like a fashion around that. And so the fashion around protest is very big, and it was a big inspiration for us.
I just love all the influences there, and kind of like I think a lot about the Steve Jobs keynote. I think it's the iPhone keynote, and the very end of it, Steve Jobs talks about how he thinks Apple, but I think it's really true of a lot of tech, amazing products. It's at the intersection of technology meets arts and the humanities. And I mean, Nass, I think that's really, it's so touching, right? Like from the French rap, and we're going to drop in the link on the YouTube later, and to protest and all of that. But the second part of it, the other axis, is technology, and you kind of, and so Saz, if I could maybe just go to you for a bit, right? Like talk to us about kind of the technology underpinnings of Rebel, because you folks have really kind of pushed the boundaries there as well.
Hey, yeah. Basically, like I've been into this project, and I've been interested in this project, and I've been interested in the whole like crypto space, basically because of the tech mainly. Like that's kind of like what drives me personally. Like I'm a technologist. I like building stuff, and I like building tech. Like I literally see this kind of tech as like in a weird way, maybe to some people, but like I see it as a form of art, basically. And my thoughts here when we started working on this project, over 6 months ago now, was like, okay, like we're gonna do something in this space, but we cannot be just supporting the status quo. We have to be pushing the envelope a little bit. We have to be trying to imagine like how we can leverage this tech to do new things rather than just do the same thing we've been doing before. And that's kind of what's been driving a lot of my interest, in particular on the customization side of things, because there's so much we can do with NFTs, and with dynamic NFTs in particular, that you cannot do with NFTs that are just basically static and fixed in time, fixed on the chain or on some storage location kind of forever. And so that's really what got me excited with this whole project, and that's what we're trying to achieve here, with the direction we're taking. Nass talked a little bit about basically being the canvas for your identity, and like that requires building some amount of new tech, that requires building some amount of new interactions and having like good product thinking to make everything fit and everything like appealing to end users basically. And yeah, like that's really kind of what what drives me and what gets me excited about this kind of stuff.
Well, I want to dig in a little bit, and maybe just nerd out a bit, because a lot of our audience, they like to look up stuff on Etherscan and they like to dig into the details. And I know it's kind of hard of what you folks do. So,
and the smart contract, the code is out there.
Yeah,
it's completely, it's published. You offered a bug bounty, which I haven't seen. This is kind of a new precedent. Nobody's ever like done this before for NFT projects. I wanted to dig into that. Like, why? What is the thinking there with respect to offering a bug bounty program and just going really deep into the tech axis of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think like, if you think about the whole like publishing code beforehand, having a bug bounty program and everything, like that aspect of how we decided to manage the project is really just, a logical kind of like conclusion to the experience we have and, what we've seen before in the industry, what we've seen before in our, previous jobs or current jobs, basically. Like there's a lot at stake in this type of code. You're writing the code for some NFT. If something goes wrong, the consequences can be basically catastrophic. And so you want to do everything you can to make sure it doesn't get to that point. You want to take every precaution you can. You want to involve, these precaution basically means involving other people than you, because at the end of the day, you have to realize that, we're humans, we make mistakes. Nobody's immune to making mistakes. And the best you can do is, increase the number of eyes that looks at this piece of code in order to, catch mistakes early on rather than later. And so that was kind of like, we obviously didn't invent the whole like bug bounty program idea. Like this has been, done for many years at this point. We just decided to apply it to this because, again, like we want to make sure we do things right. And there's a strong sense of responsibility we have towards our community as well, because, there are actual people buying actual things through this code. And you want to make sure that you do right by them. And that's kind of what drove our decisions there. And so, when you publish a new contract on the blockchain, the logic of the contract, the bytecode at least, will be available publicly. Like, there's nothing you can do about it, obviously. And publishing the code is just the right thing to do. And also, like, one thing I'll add is there's the security aspect of things, but there's also the transparency and fairness aspect of things. Like, people don't have to publish their code on Etherscan, but they do it because they want people to be able to go and see what's going on. And that's part of like the whole Web3 ethos, and like you can verify things by yourself. And so that was really where it came from.
One of the things that I love is I think it's Naval's quote of open source means that every problem only needs to be solved once, right?
Yeah.
And so I love this quote. It's basically, you can put stuff out there that can be reused, right? Because like the whole purpose of like Web3 is composability, right? It is like people basically building basic blocks that can be reused on top of it, right? Like we're reusing Ethereum, we're reusing other contracts, and without these things being open source, we would not be able to use most of them, right? And so this is something that we also feel like is going to be critical. We want to push things forward. And through that, you also need to basically, work together on building these building blocks. And there was something. Oh, sorry.
Go on.
I was about to say that like it's something that that was interesting in the process is that in the NFT space, and including Blau right here, a lot of people are very much into when mint, but right, and like when are I'm waiting for to get my nice PFP. But like people can, I just want to say that there is kind of like this culture of things getting very fast, getting delivered very fast, and coming to you very fast. But secure software engineering just takes time inherently, right? Like if you want to be safe, if you want to be transparent, if you do, you want the right thing to be done and audit your code and so on, it is slow, right? Building amazing software is slow inherently, and so we kind of like decided to also kind of like slow things down and kind of like increase our timeline just for the sake of having additional safety in the process. So these
Yeah.
are things that I really hope will not just set the precedent for just like, oh, you have to do it, but also in general making sure that people understand that things just take time and that it's
Yeah.
important to just give more time to developers and software engineers to do the right thing, and you can't really like pressure them and at the same time expect zero bug in the code.
For somebody watching this and just like you last year, they're like, oh my gosh, I see folks like you and I want to build something amazing, I want to create an NFT project. If you had to give them Nas, like 2-3 tips on how to build a project which is secure, how to kind of maybe build and compose on.
Funnily enough, that's how I reached out to Nass. I heard about Rebels. I think you'd like you talked about it somewhere, and I was like, wow, this is really fun and interesting. I really need to know how you're thinking about launching an NFT project end to end and how to think about it. So that's actually how I like got connected with these folks. It's pretty awesome, full circle.
Yeah, so maybe Nas, so somebody's watching this, they're like, this is freaking cool.
Yeah.
I want to do this. And we're going to talk about community and Rebels more in just a bit, but just from the technology side of things, right? What would you be like? Okay, here's how we should think about how to write code, how to build on top of others, how to make things secure. What would your advice to them be?
I mean, Stefan, you can also take part to this response, but I believe that you need to, if you are yourself a software developer, then kind of like apply the traditional, very rigorous software development, kind of like life cycle that you've learned so far. Like doing a proper architecting of the code, implementation, testing, heavy testing, peer reviews and having like multiple review the code, and then kind of like a audit and having independent people kind of like go over the code more broadly. All these things, don't feel like you have to compress them. Like this is not worth it. We all, people use this for stuff that is highly critical, for less critical things, but overall this is just like regular software development lifecycle is critical to apply, right? And as Stefan was saying, we're dealing with extremely critical code. It's actually funny because because Solidity is actually close to JavaScript. A lot of people who came to Solidity originally were people who knew JavaScript and more like front end, right?
Yeah.
Which tends to be a lot less critical, right? But the reality is that the code for blockchain code is almost as critical as like operating system code and like firmware code that may be running on like iPhones, etc. Right? It's like code that is going to be very hard to update. Every time that like there's going to be a flaw, it is going to be highly critical, and so it's very important to not not take shortcuts. Don't take shortcuts. It's not worth it. Because people will not forgive you, and you will not forgive yourself, for taking this trade-off. So don't do it. Take it the right way. If it means taking longer, it's fine. There's nothing as important as that.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a great way to think about, oftentimes NFT projects get a bad rap because people think of it as like, oh, it's like images, art project, not taken very seriously kind of thing. And I think you're basically going the other extreme, which is like, no, this is really important code. This is, I think, Stefan, you talked about how it's like real people doing real transactions. You have to take it seriously. I really like how much effort you're putting into this, like conscious effort that's going into this. We talked about tech, we talked about the art and the culture. I want to talk about community. I think when I look at, I joined the Rebels Discord a while ago, and it's just the energy and how frenetic it is. It's just wonderful. It's like you see this with different projects, but here it's like I love how the communities come together. I love how you're like thinking about moderation. I think Nas, when we first chatted, you talked about different languages and support for different languages. So again, for somebody who's new to the entire NFT space and wants to think about building a really authentic, strong community, the crypto community, how do you go about building it, and how did you think about it when you think about this project?
And by the way, just so you know, the Discord and the YouTube live comments are going crazy right now,
Yeah.
which is just like probably the craziest it's ever been for any one of our episodes. Just like it's all rebels.
I was gonna say the chat has not
It's all rebels.
I'm seeing a lot of people that I know saying
Yeah.
a lot of things that I understand, and people outside of the community
I
may
love it.
not.
A lot of people, by the way, think Nass, you're really good looking. So just putting it out there, right? Like on camera, on video, forever on the internet. And blah, you too, but but mostly Nass is getting awesome.
I was saying Nas is good looking.
Yeah.
Like, like
I've been
was not, hey, what about me? It was, he is.
I mean, I asked everyone to do hair and makeup, and I think only one of them listened. So,
This is gonna be a great meme for now. Okay, Nass. All right, back to community.
back to community. I did not pay anyone to say to give compliments, so that's good. But yeah, like on the community, this is something that like we've been extremely thoughtful about. And I'm gonna be honest. I think that like personally, I'm a huge fan in like reading about culture building, whether that's kind of like in society, companies, team culture, and so on. And actually, like one of the reasons why I went to A16Z is because I'm such a big fan of everything that I've read from Ben Horowitz, and all the kind of like culture building lessons that he's been writing across the multiple books that he wrote. And so kind of took like a similar approach to that when it comes to community building. The idea is that you have, first and foremost, you have to be authentic to yourself, right? Like it just doesn't work if you're not authentic. This is kind of like a ticking time bomb, and kind of putting short-term incentive and kind of trying to game the system just doesn't work. We see a lot of that in the NFT space, but you have to walk the talk. That's just like how it is. And this is something that like why I was just so excited to work on this project and get the advice from Lau, is because I feel like he's an amazing, authentic leader in the space.
Yep.
And has been walking the talk for so many years now, right? Regardless of what everyone is saying.
Bro.
And so I think that like that was kind of like the first thing, being authentic. The second thing is like you have to build an environment that is inclusive, where every single person feel like they can build friendships, they can build experiences, they can talk about things that impact them positively, negatively, and so on. So we have like mental health channels, where people were kind of like talking about some mental health issues that they were going through, some people who went through a mental health issues, for example, and kind of like advice. We have amazing events where people can kind of like let their creativity appear, whether that's kind of like fun arts, whether it's people singing, rapping. We had like so many rap battles. I can name like a few people, but like Uncle Beans, like you're always dropping insane bars. And so kind of like taking this approach of like not only making a nice space for the community, but also making it available across all the timelines, all the languages, so that like people don't feel left out, whether they're in India, in Russia, Ukraine, they can be in France, they can be in the US. We have so many people kind of like all around the globe building amazing stuff. Mm-hmm. And another thing that we feel like is important within communities is kind of like the layering within the community. And this is something that is not talked about too much in general, that is critical. And just to give you an idea, it's like for me as myself, I feel unique, and I feel that I'm also part of something amazing with many people. For example, even from like a geographic standpoint, I'm French, right? But I'm from Paris, and I'm from like a specific district within Paris, the 18th district, and within that I'm a specific neighborhood. And so it's very important to allow people to have multiple levels, right? Mm-hmm. Between any community, within any ecosystem, right? Mm-hmm. Could be that like you're working within the Ethereum ecosystem, but you can be working within the, like say, like scalability efforts. And within scalability, you're going to be like specifically working on like ZK rollups and so on, right? And just like having people feel like they're part of not only like a bigger whole, but at the same time kind of like their own sub community that is like that they feel like they contribute to and see like dramatic impact to, is very, very important. So fostering sub communities is something that we've been working on day one. We want every single person to kind of like create their own sub community. We try to foster them. We want to leverage actually customization to foster them. Like we want to give patches the ability for people to represent their sub community directly on their Rebel, right? This is critical. You want to for people to be able to express very deeply their sub communities. Some people are talking about creating DAOs. There is like a French people who are trying to create a DAO. You have like the Japanese community that is trying to create a DAO. Chinese community is creating one right now. We haven't even launched, right? But we're behind trying to kind of, help these efforts scale. We're trying to support these efforts in any way we can. Creation of token, if they need anything operationally, we want to help. And so kind of like fostering for these sub communities is super important. A community is almost as strong as the sub communities within it.
I love that. And, I think community, unfortunately, has become one of those buzzwords which gets thrown around a lot, right? Like a lot of projects say, we want to build a really strong community. Community is everything. But I genuinely feel like, when you think about community, I think the way you talked about different layers, a feeling of belonging. I think I saw the tweet show up, it's this feeling of like being respected.
Yeah, by the way, can I just say something? There's something the community on the live stream is absolutely demanding that we do right now. And that is SaaS. They feel like we have disrespected you by not acknowledging how good looking you also look.
Okay.
So I just have to call that out. Like, let's just keep the camera on SaaS for a while. And so
I just saw Sass like cracking up a bit, and I was like, "What is going on?" And now I know.
I'm basically being bullied by the entire community on Discord right now. Like, there's it's really bad.
Yeah. I just want to say, people love your look, the jewelry. It's great. It's wild. I just want to kind of have that focus shot, like there, right there. We go, right. Like the good times show. We listen to the people. We give the people what they want. Okay, sorry. Back to you.
Blau, I wanted to talk to you. You're an advisor to the Rebels project. What did you see in the project? What did you see in the founders? Why are you excited about Rebels?
Oh man, that's a big question. I think, Nass and I have spoken about kind of the state of profile pictures in general. I think we really started having deeper conversations during our Basel last year, which was the first time that we met in person. We had spoken a little bit before, and that was in December. And that was around the time that Nass we were kind of exploring this idea of how, you might own a lot of different identities, and it's really difficult to kind of combine them in any way whatsoever, right? And so that was so exciting to me because no one had really framed it that way to me before. And then it was actually happening on Twitter, where like people would have all of their different PFPs in their Twitter banners. And then like they would have like a grid of their different PFPs in their profile picture. And it was just interesting to me that you could kind of compose identity. So like this idea of composable identity made so much sense. And, so that was like really exciting. But I think the next piece of it was just, a lot of founders of these projects don't have very high technical experience. They might have artistic experience. And so when you have a super technical founder with a lot of crypto experience, a team, right? And when Nass, when you first introduced me and told me about Sauce, you explained that he was like a mentor of yours, a technical mentor of yours.
Yeah.
Right. And so you've got like a team that has an infinite amount of experience, and then a concept that no one's explored before. It's a no-brainer, right? And of course, Royal's an A16Z portfolio company, so it only made sense. And I, my little brother is also works with Nass. It's family, so I didn't hesitate at all to be as helpful as possible to the community. And I think that I haven't been more excited about a project since Apes. I'll be honest, since the original Ape, which was over a year ago.
But I just love that Blau, who's just a legend, is so good at hyping other people up and spreading the love and kindness, which is just amazing. You're just a warm, good human being.
Only you guys, not everyone.
He's just a jerk to everyone else, right? Like, but amazing.
Oh man, that's awesome. No, consistently, even when we did like previous shows and we'd have these NFT episodes, Blau would always like jump in. He's like such
Yeah.
a hype man for
Yeah,
everybody else.
and sometimes folks ask us about the behind the scenes of our shows. Like in these come together last minute. Sometimes we are stressed as f because we don't know who's going to show up,
Yeah.
and sometimes they're late or we don't know what we're going to say. And our like during kind of like last summer when when NFT just exploding, when we didn't know who to get, we
Yeah.
just get Justin, right?
Yeah.
And Justin, and I know,
And he
like,
made the show sound so polished and put together. It was just amazing.
yeah, and I knew that if I was in trouble, right, like the show was getting boring or some guest was boring, I didn't know what to do. I could just throw it to Justin.
Yeah, Justin.
And I would give no context. I'd be like,
and what do you think, Justin?
Yeah, I'm like, Justin and blah, what do you think? Right? And then he would come up with this super elegant, this smooth, sexy radio voice of his, and he just come up with this like super elegant thing. He would make everyone in the room feel great, feel loud, and then we get back on track. So so
it's a gift. It's a total gift.
It's a total gift, and you saved us. You saved it behind so many times.
I very, very much appreciate it. I will say that I didn't discover that I even enjoyed necessarily hosting podcasts or rooms or conversations until COVID, where, COVID in many ways kind of, not to change topics away from how great I am. Thank you, Saram. No, but I think that COVID was an accelerant for all of the things that led to Rebels, right? And COVID was when we all met. I mean, everyone on this call, we met. I met all of you in some way, shape, or form through Clubhouse or through being home and not being surrounded by other human beings and being able to share ideas in an open forum. Mm-hmm. And, and that was definitely such a huge part of getting people excited about digital identity.
Yep. Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. I think, we have a few minutes and I want to talk about the project itself. I think, when everyone's talking about, I think, Justin, you talked about Venmint and Nass had mentioned that. So Nass, give us specifics of the project. What's the timeline to look forward to? Drop us some information here. Give us some alpha.
There you go. Yeah. Give the people what they want.
Exactly. What to expect from in the next few days, weeks, months. How should we think about the project itself?
Yeah. So first and foremost, we're minting on Sunday. So a few days from now, it's gonna be something else. I'm super excited for it. It is gonna start with a public sale, then gonna go to a private sale. Super excited for everyone to kind of join the rebellion, and joining the Rebels community. I think that this is gonna be something else, and the market being kind of slower is actually great for us because we also want to take our time to build the best product possible. And so I think that a lot of people were like, oh, you should wait. No, we're not waiting. This is great. This is the right time. Let's launch it now. This starts on Sunday. And on Sunday, what you are gonna start minting is something, as you may have seen in the smart contracts, if you read the code, that will allow you to claim a Rebel at the time of when the reveal starts, basically. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people kind of focused on the mint, right? But we focused on the reveal. We feel like the reveal is the moment where you get to really become a Rebel. This is you will have obviously this token before, and we're gonna make this experience amazing. But the moment of the reveal is something that we cannot be understated. This is critical, and we want every single person to have the best experience possible. So this is gonna be a fast follow. We don't want it to last for too long. So probably the weekend after, not this one, but the following one, having the enabling the reveal. And we want it to be an amazing community experience. We want to have a live stream show. Would love to have you guys on it.
That would be so fun.
Sign us up.
Oh my God, that would be so fun. What an honor.
Just because your camera looks so good, right? We need people who look good.
I mean, we did not wake up like this. This took a lot of lighting and effort. So
I always look good.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's great. So that's awesome.
It's gonna be something that hopefully will the entire community is gonna experience as a whole, and and people would kind of like share this moment, this reveal moment, more broadly, and I'm super excited for it.
And what can you
That's important.
share? What can you share about, you're going to do the mint, this weekend, you're going to raise money. What are you going to use the funds for? How are you thinking about the future, the team structure? Like anything you can like tell us. I know it's very early and things all like it's very dynamic as a project, but how are you thinking about medium term kind of focus on scaling the project and the team?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, we've seen, first and foremost, we always said kind of like no roadmaps. We try to always be like very careful with everything around securities laws and so
Mm-hmm.
on. So, no promises that we cannot like execute on, and that we don't have like insight. So the customization is going to be the very very big piece. We want to build a very strong brand. We want to build a very strong IP, but mostly kind of like build an amazing product for people to use, right? Because right now people just don't use their NFTs, and we want to really make that a thing, right? And kind of like make a paradigm shift from looking at your NFT to using it. And so this is like a lot of the work that we're gonna work toward. And so like in the next few months, we will release the first version of the customization, where we will release patch collections for people in the space. I'm super excited for it, for everyone to kind of be able to get basically like patches that represent their roles in the community. And beyond that, we'll continue working. We'll continue working on additional milestones to the customization. There are many things that we're also planning. I don't want to reveal them. Like we try to keep everything a surprise and kind of like go beyond. For everything that we do, we plan on going well beyond anything that has been done in the past. Like this is our goal. Like we're not doing it if we don't feel like we can meaningfully improve the status quo, and we'll always execute like this. So we're building a lot of amazing things, a lot of amazing experiences. We're looking into also like a wide range of options to improve the UX and improve the depth. We were talking the other day about interactive NFTs. That is something that is extremely interesting to kind of like provide more depth to the NFTs and kind of like go beyond this kind of like constraining PFP format. And so these are things that like we're starting to go deeper in.
I want to touch on something with Justin, which Nass just talked about, which is the markets are definitely just slower, right? Like the prices are down, et cetera. And and Justin, you're kind of in the heart of all things NFTs. You obviously founded a company. You help out, advise several others. What do you think? How would you sum up the current state of the art of the world of NFTs? Right? Like, what do you think is going to be happening in the coming months?
I think that everyone's kind of going through a disillusionment stage where I think people just assume. And we kind of saw this in 2017 during the ICO era, where people just assume that everything's going to hold its value forever. And the reality is not everything does. We saw it in .com. I was a little bit young to really know what was going on back then. We saw it, we've seen it multiple times in history. And we're going through that phase of disillusionment. Now, from the ashes of .com, we have Amazon and incredible companies. And I think the people who were purely involved in a lot of this stuff for speculative purposes might have gotten hurt. However, if you have been believing in this technology for a while and you focused on finding either projects or founders or communities that had a real long-term vision of the future, people who want to work hard and innovate and push boundaries, most of those things are in great shape from when they launched. Right. And the best example of this is the Bored Apes. They were $200. I remember giving away a bunch of them on Clubhouse right after the mint.
I remember. Yeah.
And these are the reality is people's perspective always kind of lines up with wherever the top was. And they very rarely look at where we were just 2 years ago or even, a year ago. The real momentum in NFTs didn't start, and I'll take I'll take a little bit of credit here. February of last year is when it started. The auction that I did was the first 8-figure NFT sale ever.
Yeah.
And then 3 weeks following that was Beeple's $69 million sale.
Yep.
And that was, those 2 moments were the 2 biggest sales to date. And I think, Beeple really changed everything, because that kind of number is just such an astronomical number to people that it, and then of course we had the Good Time show following that with Metacoven, the one we were talking about before. I think you just couldn't ignore it at that point. But even before that point, you had Pac and Trevor Jones and Slime Sunday and all these other artists that were monetizing their art for the first time. From the point that I'm making here is from $0.
Yeah.
From zero.
Yep.
The first NFT sale that I had ever done was $21,000, which at the time was insane.
Yeah.
I was like, I made like $300 for an exclusive song that I never released with some art associated with it. And I was like, I cannot believe my creativity is being valued in this way. And so realistically, right, everybody looks at the markets and they get a little upset and they think, oh, it's down from where it was. But realistically, this is just the early innings of what will be a multi-decade innovation journey for creators and engineers. And that's my perspective. And I kind of like to encourage everybody to keep a long-term perspective.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. I think we see a lot of this too. I think Shriram and I talk about the current market, NFTs, how do you think about it? And I think, this is exactly our perspective too, on like, for people who are like willing to be in this long term and willing to be in this for truly disrupting the status quo. I think we're just about getting started. It's like Wild West. There are not many tools being out there right now. There's just so much to go build. And so if you're an engineer, or if you're like really into technology, it's just a great place to geek out on, because there's just so much to do. And if you're a creator, it's never been as good ever before in any other like system. And so this just fundamentally disrupts how people think about meaningful income for creators. And I think it's like such a big shift in how you think about things. So I think that's also why like projects like Rebels I'm really excited by, because it really pushes the boundary on what can be possible and what is achievable. We are a little bit over time. I wanted to wrap by just talking about some logistical questions. So Nass says, if people didn't know until now how to get into Rebels, like how to join the community, what is the website to go look at, what point people to what should they do, or where do they get started here?
Yeah. So first and foremost, most of the community is living, in Discord, and also, like around Twitter. But our Discord is some very special place. So I would recommend everyone to first and foremost check our Twitter, twitter.com/rebelsbynight. There will be a link to Discord, to our Discord there. It is always going to be open. We're extremely adamant about it. We want to be extremely transparent. Some Discord kind of like try to kind of like be closed, etc. We go the other way around. Like we want to be very open. Please join us. Please come see everything that Rebels is about. Thanks so much for joining in. And so our mint is going to happen on the rebels.art website. Please don't fall for scams. A lot of them, are imitating us. I actually wrote a tweet for those who are interested, where some people were trying to scam members from our communities, and I kind of did some investigation where I was kind of like chasing them down and managed to kind of like find the identity by kind of like following the funds on chain, etc. So for those who are interested, like there are many scams out there. We actually got them to apologize.
When Nass goes crypto Liam Neeson on you, you don't want that.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's like it's a scary thing. It's like there's a movie to be made there someday where Nass goes like Liam Neeson and tracks you down.
I will find you. Don't. I think it's like
I have a very specific set of skills, and I will find you.
Rebels might be the wrong community to try to target for scams, but it's that's another story. But overall, like, don't fall for scams. Please make sure that you're always on the right website. You're only following the official announcements, rebels.art. The mint is going to start on Sunday. We're all going to be there to support you with any question that you may have. We will provide tutorials for you to kind of like know where to click if you are not very aware of like how mints happen. And so we'll help throughout the process. We're very, very excited for everyone to join us. We've been building an amazing community. We have over what is it, like 70,000 people on Discord, 90,000 people on Twitter, but we know that many thousands of people are yet to join our community, right? Like most of the rebels might be out there, might not be in the Discord yet. So make sure that like you get to understand the kind of culture and DNA that we've built, that like we're all going to do together. We have so many people in the community that will help onboard you to what we're about. And like super excited for it. Please make sure you check our drop. It is going to be something else. And our reveal too. Please, if you mint, you have to go through the reveal experience yourself. You're not going to be disappointed.
So good. So good. I cannot end it on a better note. It's just the best. Congrats on all the success so far on Rebels project, and just, building this really strong community together. I'm really excited for this weekend.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. And
I want to take can I take just 1 minute to thank really like everyone in not only our community, our amazing, moderation team and Sophie and Salute, kind of like, when you have a community that is that big and that active, it takes tremendous amount of efforts to to kind of like cater to the request from dozens of thousands of people on a constant basis of day and night. And so I really want to thank our entire moderation team. We have over 30 mods that work across time zones and languages. We have amazing people kind of like leading community efforts, and we have amazing advisors in the team. I really want to thank everyone. I want to thank you, Artie. I want to thank Blau for being an amazing support. I want to thank Shiny and then just amazing human beings that help us be the project that we are.
Wow.
Awesome.
Probably amazing note to wrap up today. So first of all, I just want to say thank you to first of all just everybody who was just great on the chat, on the Discord. We had so much fun. We tried to listen to the requests, but it's so much fun. I think like one of the real privileges of doing this show is not only when we start off every episode, we talk about why we do the show, and it is about we want to tell optimistic stories about people who are building things and people who are kind of just really pushing the state of technology and culture forward. But sometimes there's an added benefit, which is you just get to talk and listen to some just wonderful, amazing, warm human beings. And I think the three folks that you see on the screen right now are all just amazing, warm human beings. And Nass, I have the privilege of just working with him every single day. Even he does not like how I look on Zoom, but I just want to say you folks are all amazing, and I'm so happy for the success and what you've built so far, and can't wait to see what else you accomplish. So Nass and Saz, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about all things Rebels. Just hear them out. Go check out the Twitter. Go check out the Discord. Can't wait for the weekend. And Justin, thank you for saving our butt so many times on the previous shows, this show, future shows. And you're so amazing. You do look as good as you sound. I think we all know that now. But you're a dear, dear friend, and thank you. And with that, I think it's the end of our episode. We had a blast.
So fun.
So fun. We did this live, but you can always catch this show on this very URL on YouTube. We'll be publishing clips. We'll be publishing audio versions. But you'll always find it here. And hope we had a super fun time.
Yeah. Like, subscribe, the usual.
There we go. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. But thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much.